Hi guys, today we're talking with James Westerman. He is the most famous researcher of Osireion at Abydos. He spent 40 years of his life researching the Osireion. So we're going to talk about the most important questions about this ancient structure. It looks like it may be the most ancient structure in the whole world. So let's talk with James and see what's interesting he's going to tell us. Hi guys, today we're talking with James Westerman. You know, he is very famous researcher of Osireion and Abydos. So let's talk to him. Hi Jim.
Hi Guy.
So my first question is how you get involved with this activity? How did your journey with Osireion start?
So the first time I was in Abydos, I had an unusual experience in the Seti temple. And it was because of that very unique experience, I call it like an epiphany, that I got interested in Abydos. And it was on my 40th, coincidentally, like a lot of the things that have happened to me in Abydos and in the Osirion area. Coincidentally, it was my 40th birthday. So I did research when I came back. I was just on a vacation. And then when I returned to Chicago, I started to research the strange thing that happened to me in this one specific area. In doing that, I ran into a story by a woman named Seti, who was a famous person in the Abydos area with the Osirion and this Seti temple, where she claimed she fell into a crypt. And the area where I had my epiphany was right by this, where she describes that she fell into the crypt. So it led me to kind of do research. And eventually I tried to get, and we did, visited the site with Bahia Minahani Al-Zaini, who was friends of Seti and wrote a book with her. And we wanted to do some physical GPR of this one area that looked like it could conceivably lead to this supposed crypt she fell into. And in doing that, getting permission to do that, the Egyptian Antiquities said, well, we'll give you a permission. I was working at this time with the University of Pennsylvania. Obviously, I need to have connections in order to do any work. And they said, well, we want you to, if you're going to do this research on the Seti temple, we also want you to do some conservation work in the area. And at the time I had seen the Osirion on my first visit, but it was all full of weeds, and the water level was well over the level of where you can see the stairwell over my shoulder. The water was maybe 3 or 4 steps over the top of that. And so I said to the people I was working with at the University of Pennsylvania that maybe we should try to do a conservation project on the Osirion. So that Penn people proposed that, and the Antiquities said okay. So we eventually brought in 2 hydrogeologists to study the water source in the Osirion to try to figure out if the water could be controlled where it was coming from. And one of the hydrogeologists was a fellow named Bahia Sawe, who was former head of the Geological Survey of Egypt, very prominent, maybe the most prominent geologist in Egypt at the time, and then an American hydrogeologist named James Brooks. And they claimed that in their study, they did study of the water in and around the Osirion, that it was sitting in an aquifer. And when I heard that, I said, geez, how do you build a building like this with so massive, and it's really stayed plumb all these years in an aqueous environment? Why would you build it in an aqueous environment? So that's kind of, that's what triggered my interest in the Osirion. And for the first maybe up till 1992, 96, I worked mostly in the Seti temple in trying to find out if this crypt that this Seti claimed she fell into truly existed. There were, it took many seasons of work to finally put that idea to rest. So I have a website called jameswesterman.org, and any thing I've done over the years, I've put into that website, and I have a database, which is part of the website, where it goes into detail about the various points I make in and have made in my research and on my website. So that would be the story of how I got involved in the Osirion.
Tell us when did it start? What year it was? It was like
Well, so
1985.
the end of 85 to 80, my birthday is January 3rd. And it was in 1986 when I was in Abydos. And so you could say that was the starting point. But the Osirion, really looking into it, was in 1992.
Yeah, so it's 40 years this year. How you get involved?
That's been coming up on, 40 years. Time flies.
So, what do you think? What Osireion really is? What this building was built for? What's the purpose of this building?
So the Osirion, a unique building. There's no other building like it in Egypt, which is saying something, because a building of this sophistication from the get-go with everything else, the pyramids, the tombs, the whole history of architecture in Egypt is trial and error. So there are 7 unanswered questions that about the Osirion. So, what do I think the Osirion is? So the 7 unanswered questions are: why did they build it in the first place? What motivated them to build this building, this unique, very difficult to construct, to be honest with you, building? There's no other one like it, so it's kind of hard to say, well, this was, we have other examples and we know from other examples what it was. We don't have any other examples, so it's unique. Then the next question is, when did they build it? There's controversy about, and we're going to talk about this later in this podcast, about when did they build the Osirion. So then, why did they build it? When did they build it? How did they build it? The techniques and the nature of the depth that this building goes into, it'd be hard to build today. And it may be impossible to build today because it's so deep. So how did they build it? I mean, they were using, it appears, techniques they didn't use in any other building we know of in Egypt. So then why do they build it in water? Well, this building is designed to be in water. Again, a unique building in that regard. And then why water? Why? And then why would you ever build a building like this in water? And then where does this water come from? As I said, this Asawi and James Brooks said it was in an aquifer. But is that where the water does come from? Is there a gigantic aquifer out there? Or is it coming from some other source, which we wanted to research? Then the question is what's the masonry built? Is it just a big pile of rocks? Well, no, it has voids and cavities in it. We determined this by seismic studies. Okay, then what, if anything, is inside these chambers, whatever the chambers are that the seismic studies revealed exist? And then there's a temperature anomaly, that the water in the Osirion is warmer than the water, surrounding water. And what's causing this? What's the heat source for this water anomaly? So the question is, I don't know why they built it, so I'm not exactly sure what its function was. I have some ideas, but and they get into the kind of, unfortunately, well, I shouldn't say unfortunately, but the metaphysical area. This area of Egypt was always a special part. It was the belief of the afterlife. Initially, Khentimentu, a local deity, foremost of the Westerners, and then it was incorporated in the belief in Osiris. For thousands of years, the dead and the living would have pilgrimages to Abydos, reenact the story of the death and rebirth of Osiris. If you could get your mummy buried here, that would be good. But even if you didn't get him buried, or your mummy buried here, you tried to bring your mummy to Abydos so that your soul or your ba could go through the cleft in the Western escarpment and go into the West or the afterlife. So this has always been an area of special interest for the belief in the afterlife. And we'll go into why I believe the Osirion is associated with the story of Osiris.
Yeah, but you think it was a temple, or it was like a tomb or cenotaph, or maybe it has another purpose? Maybe it was even constructed before Osiris cult erased in Egypt. Maybe it was way before. So, like, what is your feel? No, we don't talk about like what we see. We talk about feelings. How you feel? What is it? What it was built for?
Well, supposedly Osiris was buried in Abydos, according to the legend. At least his head, I believe, head and torso. And the myth of Osiris is the oldest known story in the world, frankly.
Yeah,
And
first one.
and
It
so the building is like no other building. And the phenomenon that I've experienced there and we've studied scientifically and documented, the scientific method is basically you observe phenomenon and record it and then try to explain it using what we know of the laws of science, frankly.
Yep.
And this building is doing things that we can't explain using those. So what does that mean? It means that there's some kind of an unusual observable phenomenon that we can't explain. What does that mean as a person who's trained scientifically as I am? It causes one to think maybe outside the box about what this could be and what it's showing us, what's revealing to us. This building wasn't really uncovered until 1914. And so then it really, the most authoritative explanation is given by Henry Frankfurt in his report. And as you'll hear in this podcast, one of the things I questioned was his results. So I don't know what it is. I could say it's the tomb of Osiris. I could say it's the oldest known building in the world. I mean, I could say a lot of things, but I don't have the proof of any of that. So.
Yeah, it's no proof because we need more and more excavation to figure out what is it. This is true. So another thing with water. Everyone knows you work with this water source, and water is the main element in Osireion. So tell us a little bit about this water.
So the water, when I first came, the water was about meter higher than the elevation of the central island. And one of the questions, Frankfurt had commented that he believed it was resting on the Gebel Moya, which he said was a hard layer that was like a barrier between a water table, and that he had described when he had tried to excavate down to the foundation he brought in a steam engine and some pretty good sized pumps, and he was trying to excavate down to find out how deep this building went. And he thought it was 7.8 meters, that this Gebel Moya, which he never really reached himself. He used a wood stick, he said, and he got down that deep. And then there was resistance, and when he pulled the stick out, the water gushed out. So the local people tell him, oh yeah, it's founded on the Gebel Moya. So I wanted to see if this Gebel Moya existed. And so I brought in a long probe, and it was about 8.4 meters long. And it had at the bottom of it was an iron rod, and then it was aluminum pole that was extended. And we probed in to try and find out if that Gebel Moya was in fact a level. We went down actually 8.2 meters, and we weren't hitting rock. You can tell when you hit rock with these kind of probes because you feel it. And that was when we were doing that was the unusual circumstance where the pole, when we take turns doing this probing, because it was fairly strenuous, it was pounding. And when I did it, we all took turns. There was like 4 of us, and it felt like a fish was caught on the bottom. I felt like a resistance. And when I pulled the probe out, the iron rod where the connection, it had formed a V, and in the V was a metal crook. And the metal crook, as I pulled it out of the water, the probe, it flew out of it was like a crook hanging. A crook is like a big question mark looking thing. It was in the V. It flew out and hit me on the chest, and I caught it.
Yeah.
to this day, I can't explain anything about that because it only happened with me and that one particular episode. We did like about 8 or 10 different probing to see different how deep we could go, and we, like I said, we exceeded the 7.8. So look, we also brought in people to determine the elevation of the water because we assumed that the water was coming from the Nile, which is located locally east of the Osireion, because we felt that the water had to come from the Nile. Well, what we found was the water level in the Osirion was higher than the water level in the Roman well in the first court or the second court, first I think, of the Seti temple complex. So the water was higher to the west, local west, than it was to the east, which was backwards from how we thought it could be. We also did a whole lot of surveying with piezometers and probing, and we found that there was a canal that goes from the Osirion towards and to the cultivation, which makes some sense that they had to somehow bring in these big blocks from the quarries using the Nile system and canals, but the canals were going the wrong way. So then we tried to figure out, we did a lot of seismic, not seismic, but chemical studies of the water in and around the Osirion. And we found that the water has different chemistry, that actually the water in the Osirion is potable and pretty clean. And an incident that happened was that I studied, well, I drank a lot of it one year, and my eyesight improved after drinking it. You know, and people to this day, I get comments from people all over the world, where can I get this water? You know, about the chemistry of the water. But the water is, and to this day, which you'll hear, it's coming out of the, well, you'll hear about it, out of the Osirion in the canal, and then in one of the chamber right behind my ear there. And
Yeah.
so the water is strange. It's unique. It's also, we can't explain it. And this Seti, she claimed that her eyesight improved by washing her eyes with the water. I just drank the water, but I drank a lot of it. So.
And it helped you too.
Well, you know, it definitely my eyesight improves, and it's an anecdotal experience. I can't say that, you know, what's in the water that would cause that. I don't think very many people have drank the water. It used to be, and I don't know if it still is, that women from the local area who were trying to get pregnant would come down, and then they'd bathe, and they'd be all dressed up in their local finery, and they'd go down there and they'd splash around it. I never saw them drinking it, but they, you know, it's probably from ancient times. The local people thought there was some special things about this water.
Oh, I don't think it may be dangerous or something. It's actually mineral water, what we're buying in the store.
It's got different chemistry though. It's not the same as the water around it. It's different chemistry.
No, it's
this is all my documented in my website too, in the database.
Yes. I mean, of course, it's not the same like in our water, but it's still like mineral water from where, from
somewhere. It's from somewhere.
And maybe it contains some radon or something like this, which really helps. You know, it's
It doesn't have any radon in it. We've tested for that. We've done isotope analysis and everything else. Yeah, it's just different.
Okay, so tell us please about your research about this water, because we know you dig something, you do with big research around this water source.
So the water source is, we've got piezometers. We put them in 2023, not piezometers, data loggers. We did put piezometers in there in 2012. But we're trying to keep track of the surrounding water, its chemistry, which is measured by its electrical conductivity. It gives readings of its solids, and also the temperature, and also the level, because it changes, the whole Nile system changes over time. And we've studied it, and every time, we just recently did the isotope analysis again, and it's just different. So the other thing is, when we tried to excavate, the water has some kind of, if you look under energetic water inflow in the website, it looks like so Frankfurt tried to excavate down, drain the water and excavate down to the foundation level. I tried to do that in 2012. The Egyptian government asked me to do that, which it was kind of a byproduct of the problems they had after the Arab Spring situation. And we had a very sophisticated system to drain the water and excavate the muck in the channel. We did it in the channel right there. Again, it's documented. And we got to a certain level, and then it looked like a pipe broke. The water was bubbling up. And we put more and more, we had two very large sump pumps in there. We put more and more sump pumps in there, and the water just matched as we were trying to drain it in this very small area. So it was like the system knew that we were working in this particular little small volume, and it was redirecting water into that area while we were trying to excavate. And it ultimately defeated us. I came to the conclusion that no matter how many pumps we put in, the water was just going to toy with us and come in.
Yeah, so let's talk about connection with Osiris. How is building connecting to Osiris? If it was really constructed like his tomb, or maybe it was before him, what do you think about this? Because Osiris place, it's Tinis, it's a little bit up north, it's a place called Girga. And a lot of sources shows what the real Osiris was birthed over where. In the time of Middle Kingdom, people believed what Osiris tomb located where with Al-Kab located now. It was altar of Osiris.
It's just slightly north of here, but yes, it's well before Girga. I mean, it's still in the Abydos area, and usually it's close to what they believe and was the ancient pilgrimage route out towards the Gap, where the first, second dynasty tombs are.
Yes, and we don't have any inscriptions telling us about with Osireion before actually Seti, but there is our evidence which shows what it's really older than Seti. It's like maybe archaic pre-dynastic or first dynasties or fourth dynasty. What do you think about all this?
Or maybe all I can say is how they engineered to do this, no matter when they did it. If it was pre-dynastic, I mean, you're getting into Space Invaders. It's fun to build it. The technology just wasn't there to build a structure so deep into the ground. There's nothing else like this Osirion. So how they built it, why they built it, so why do I think it's connected to Osiris? The evidence would be starting with Murray and Petrie, Mrs. Petrie, Hilda, I think. They found an ostraca that has an Osiris holding a crook, not a flail and a crook, but just a crook. So that's the first of evidence that they found when they excavated, the starting of the excavation, this was somehow connected with Osiris. Then the other kind of, I would say, there's texts in the Merneptah's tunnel, and that show it's connected with Osiris. And the other interesting thing is in the Seti temple, there's 7 chapels in the Seti temple, all different deities, but the main one, which is the one that furthest to the local north, leads into the Osiris complex, and the whole back of the western part of the Seti temple, behind the chapels, is the Osiris complex. So it was like in line with the Osirion. And as I studied, because we know how deep the Osirion is, the hole in the ground they had to excavate to put it at that depth, which is 23 meters below grade. The hole in the ground, because of the angle of repose issues, would have been well into the structure of the Seti temple. So they had to build this before they built the Seti temple. The Seti temple is a unique temple in that it's got this L shape to it. And the part of the L that is parallel or in alignment with the Osirion is this Osiris complex. So again, it seems to me that had some bearing, that this was had to do with Osiris.
Yeah, but first researchers, they believed it's Kenataf of Seti, not Osiris. If you read in these reports, yeah. So they say it's
well, they
Seti.
didn't discover it until 2014, and they really didn't do any depth of recording about the scenes on the Merneptah's tunnel and everything until Frankfurt in the 1920s, and they published it in 1930. But from 1930 to me, virtually nobody did anything on the Seti temple. I mean, on the Osirion.
This report of Frankfurt looks weird because he got way more information when he reported. Now we have
the other thing that's very interesting about Frankfurt's report is this recess is hacked away. But he didn't show it in his report. In fact, he didn't record it at all. And Neville, in his report, was vague. He had like this part of it, but then the rest of it, if you look at Neville's schematic of his floor plan, it doesn't show this being hacked away. And then this is in the most recent seasons in 2024, there's doing seasons as we speak, but nobody had ever photographed what this thing looked like when it was dry. It was strange. Frankfurt misrepresented what it looked like, and when he did his photographs of this temple and everything else, he didn't photograph it. So, but that water, which you can see there's water in there now, that water is strange, which we'll talk about probably as we come.
I compare his report to Flinders Petrie report from Temple of Osiris, which was made like 20 years before in 1902 or 1903, and it's perfect report. You can see and understand everything he did over there. But Frankfurt report is very short, cut, and it does not give you all information, because we have almost 2,000 photographs from his excavation, and it's a lot of stuff over there, and he did not describe almost nothing from over there. It looks weird. That's why we're guessing.
Yeah, it was, and to this day, everybody says, well, Frankfurt, the thing had to be done by Seti because they found the dove joint in one of the walls. Therefore, it must be like Frankfurt is definitively the answer to this was built by Seti. And as I pointed out, I think it must have been built before the Seti temple. And in fact, the technology of it, people say, oh, I'd like to go back in history and meet somebody in the past. The guy I'd like to meet is the architect who designed this building.
Yeah,
he had a vision that nobody else ever had. I don't know how he ever executed this project.
So it was like hydrotechnic construction, And with water
Built
levels,
in water, and it's designed to be built in water. Why would you ever build a building? What other building can you think of that's been built in water anywhere on the planet, let alone this one?
because the source of water is somewhere here. That's why. So water was important part. Water was the most.
Water is a key part of this structure. Key.
And the engineering was to try to make it keep level.
Well, again,
So-
they went down 15 meters into the water, apparently. Ow.
Yeah, Frankfurt say he dug the deepest like 50 feet, so 15 meters. Yeah, like 16.
7.8 meters. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
7.8. But he thought that was
Also-
wasting.
It's really interesting. And if we believe it was tomb of Osiris, why water was so important? How it's connected? Is it connected somehow?
Well, where did water come from, according to the ancient Egyptians? Well, the oldest known text that describes that is in the pyramid text, the oldest known text, and I think it's number 436. And it said that the water, all water, comes from the putrefying body of Osiris. Strange thing to say. Strange thing to say. Why would you? That's a water's what? Where does water go? Look at the putrefying body of Osiris. Here's water coming out of the ground, out of this building. Osiris. So Osiris down there still, and there's water coming out of his. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you what I found in my research.
It all depends what we believe. If Osireion was built in early time, or if Osireion was built by Seti. If it was built by Seti, so inscription may be described their vision. But
well, the pyramid texts are thousands of years before Seti.
Yeah, and it's something like now we're going to talk about Jesus Christ. So we did not know, actually. It's like couple thousand years at least. Yeah, so, okay. And tell me, please, you're thinking what it's going to be next? What's going to be next step in research? What we have to do next?
So we discovered, like I say, in this recess just here in 2024, that there's a conduit and that the water is gushing out of the conduit into that recess. That you can see it's wet. And so we're going to probe in with endoscopes inside that conduit. And we found 2 or 3 other smaller conduits also flowing into that recess. And then there are some scientists from Italy who want to do some using muons to find the voids in the Osirion. I don't know that the technology will work, but they came to me and said they'd like to try it. There's some controversy about the pyramid of Khepri with this SAR research was also done by some Italians. I don't think that research is correct myself, but regarding the muon research in the island, then I told them exactly what they had to prove in tests somewhere in a controlled thing, that in fact this type of study would reveal existing known cavities. And if that in fact the case, that I say the future of the research is to try to find out the nature of these cavities, and if we can identify exactly where they are, potentially we could get permission to drill into this structure depending on how deep these existing cavities and conduits exist. So that I would say would be the thrust of the future research in the Osirion, because it's got cavities and voids in it. So why and what, if anything, is inside of it? It's one of the 7 unanswered questions.
Yeah, and the question is, what do you think about our sites like Rammeses II temple nearby? People think maybe it also has some similar structure like Osirion. and also
Yeah, no, but he's studied that. It was Sam Iskander, and he looked, and we had some of the GPR we had did in the 1990s. Thought there could be possibly another Osirion, but he excavated in there, and it actually doesn't show what the GPR revealed. So the actual in the ground was nothing like what the GPR showed. He's done a lot of work out there. Actually, he believes that the ancient, city of Abydos, because obviously it was the capital of the country when it was united, the first and second dynasties, that in the area of the Ramses temple is an ancient city, the archaic city.
Abydos is our motherland, is the place where Western civilization came out from, actually.
Yeah, it's true.
This is the first place on the earth where people made a strong community, created the state, culture, everything, actually. So our tradition goes from Abydos.
Yeah, it seems like if you look at history as an artichoke, and you peel away the over time to get to the core of the artichoke, the core is Abydos, because it's the oldest known for a lot of different things.
Yeah, and tell me please.
That have to do with Western culture. You can say where did Western culture originate, and it would be Abydos. You're correct.
No, ancient Greece, they were connected with Egypt. So they took a lot from Egypt civilization, which already was advanced and developed and everything. And Egypt civilization started from Abydos. So the line is straight. And ancient Greece and ancient Roman, it's already our time, actually, our everything.
Well, and Christianity also can be, Jesus supposedly in the Bible lived his formative years. He escaped and lived in Egypt, so he would have been exposed to Egyptian culture in his formative years. Frankly,
Oh yeah, I think this Christianity is evolution of ancient Egypt religion, because with Saint Damian monastery in Abydos. But we 400 years
in Nagamati, and right. That's where supposedly he lived, right? That's where
it
the white
started 400
monastery and
years
everything.
before Jesus Christ. So it's all in.
He supposedly emigrated from Egypt into Canaan.
Yeah. And another question I wanted to ask you about with ground penetrating radars. Now technology is very high, and why we have to use this muon scanning on Osireion if we can use just with ground penetrating radar inside?
The GPR is not. I don't think it would work in the Osirion. I don't, we use seismic studies to determine that these voids existed and the fact that it was 15 meters deep. So it's going through dirt to find things. GPR is very good. Going through rock, not so good.
Yes, I understand, but why I'm asking you, because I have read certainly about this Chinese new equipment for these purposes. So they penetrate through granite, through concrete, through stuff. So we designed especially for this to.
I'm not familiar with it. So is it commercially out there in the field?
Yeah, and we're not very expensive and very affordable, and we show very good results. So we will give you a picture right away and different level.
It goes through rock.
Yeah, exactly. We go through rock.
Can you send me a link to that? I'd like to see it.
Yeah, I can. We were discussing. We're thinking to do something in Darkshore with this equipment, but Osireion is also we can use it because we think we need to look through the walls or through the floor, through stuff, through rock. And it looks like how it worked. Oh, I'm gonna send it to you, of course.
You know, the thing that's been in the news recently, as I said, was about this Italian team with this SAR technology, which was using something from satellites, I think, or something, to look inside the pyramid of Khufu.
Oh, wait, did not.
And you know, and it unfortunately it did not show known voids. It projected that there's a city underneath the pyramid, and it's probably
I think
not factual, but that's what it showed, you know, according to their study that they got a lot of publicity about.
I think these people was just getting hype on internet, and that's it. Because I look what we say. No, we did not do nothing. It's not research. It's
It
not
doesn't
research.
appear to be true science. Let's put that.
It's not science at all. It's like Photoshop pictures. And with muon scanning, like we did in Great Pyramids, I think it may not work in Osireion because it need huge structures for muons, because they
Well,
not too sensitive.
again, we put it on the sides in the canal against the surface of the island, which would be relatively simple to do. And we know where their voids are, because their voids are going into this recess. They're coming in right
Yeah.
here. So we could put the detectors such that they would, if they work, they would show this void. So we know the void exists. Does the muon detector do it? Okay, if it does, it would not be that difficult to dig into the muck of the moat, put these lower and lower and lower, and see what we find. It could, if the technology works, it could be applied to the Osirion. It could be. But you ask what the future could be, and that I say is a definite could.
Okay, so it's all very interesting, and we continue research. We will try to do something.
Yeah,
Maybe
I'm getting up there in age now, so I hope that the water is prolonging my healthy existence.
Okay, thank you very much, Jim. It was very interesting, and it's important.
Okay, and I look forward to when you post this on your YouTube
Yeah,
channel.
we're gonna put on YouTube channel. I'm gonna send the link to you and everything. I'm gonna make links on your website and everything how it's usually.
That would be good. Yes, obviously, I try to put everything that I've done over the years where it's accessible to the general public for free. And yeah, if you go onto my website, jameswesterman.org, and look under the links, there's several other, I've also worked in Machu Picchu. There's a television documentary, and then I also commissioned a ballet about the story of Osiris. Very good ballet. It's also on that website. And there's other, you know, stuff from the ISIDA link to their website and things. So
Yeah. So thank you very much. So see you next time. Have a great day.
okay, until next time. Bye-bye.